Here we are at example 2 from our 4.6 set of notes. First of all, what we're going to go ahead and do is identify our A, B, and C. A is in fact actually 1 here. B is -5 and C is -24. So we're going to go ahead and just jot those in. And whenever we're working with the quadratic formula, I always encourage students to rewrite the formula just because when they're first learning it, it's hard to remember. But as you use it more often and you keep rewriting it, it just becomes really second nature. So it's, again, x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. Okay? And now we're going to go ahead and place our values where they appropriately belong. So we have x equals the opposite of b. In this case, b is -5. Notice how I have 2 different negatives there, right? One is from the actual quadratic formula, and one of them is from the b value that happens to be a negative number. Plus or minus the square root of b, in this case, is, again, -5 squared, minus 4 times our a value, in this case, is 1, times our c value is -2, all over 2 times our a value, 1. So notice in that first step, I really didn't even do any math. All I did was identify my a, b, and c and place those values where they belong. Okay. Next, this is where some of the simplifying of things occurs. Okay. So we have x equals the opposite of -5. Well, that's just going to become a normal 5, right? Plus or minus the square root of -5 squared comes out to be regular 25. And then we have -4 times 1 times -2. Well, that comes out to be a regular +8. And on the bottom, we end up with 2 times 1, which is 2. Next, let's go ahead and bring those values together inside that square root. So we have x equals 5 plus or minus the square root of 25 plus 8 gives us 33 all over 2. And looking at your square root, unfortunately, we can't do any good and garbage. Like, we can't divide it by any perfect squares, so that actually would be our answer right here. Now, suppose that you actually had to find the decimal version. You would just enter this in, each one separately, where you'd have 5 plus square root of 33 rather, all over 2. And it's important when you plug that in the calculator, you would place these guys in parentheses because that whole numerator is seen as one set together, okay? But again, I would actually, personally, I prefer this because it is an exact answer as opposed to this one, which is more of a decimal estimate version. So again, though, that is example 2 from our 4.6 set of notes.